They demolished my family's 80-year-old bridge with a bulldozer at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday.
Stood there filming on their phones, laughing while the stones my grandfather laid in 1943 crumbled into the creek.
What they didn't know, I owned the only other road into their gated community. Every single one of those 85 houses. And I was about to turn their commute into a very expensive lesson about property rights.
See, Darlene Pritchett, HOA president, real estate agent, professional bully, thought she could steamroll a quiet engineer because I wasn't the type to fight back.
She was half right. I'm not the type to fight back. I'm the type to win.
My name is Garrett Sullivan, 54 years old, third-generation civil engineer, living on 127 acres in semi-rural Pennsylvania, 40 minutes outside Pittsburgh. The kind of place where you wake up to creek water hissing over limestone instead of traffic noise.
The property's been in my family since 1938.
My grandfather, Pop Sullivan, bought it during the Depression and built everything himself, including, in 1943, a stone and timber bridge over Blackwater Creek. It connected our land to Old Mill Road, the only route back then to 4 family farms. That bridge wasn't some weekend project. Pops pulled foundation stones from the creek bed, milled the timber himself, forged the iron brackets at the town blacksmith.
It took him 8 months. I learned to fish under it as a kid. Helped my dad replace planks when I was 16. Every time I drove over it, gravel crunching under my tires, I heard Pop's voice, "Build something right, it outlasts you." I'm semi-retired now. Consulting gigs, some land lease income. Widowed 2 years ago, daughter in Oregon. Quiet life. The bridge was the last thing I had from Pops. Then 18 months ago, a developer built Meadowbrook Estates on the old Kowalski farm, 85 homes, $600,000 and up, gated community with an HOA that thinks it runs the county. They needed a sewage easement across my land during construction. I negotiated, got paid $12,000, everything legal and recorded. Should have been the end of it. Then I met Darlene Pritchett. 62, real estate agent, Tesla Model X, bleached bob, monogrammed everything. Elected HOA president 3 months after moving in and apparently decided her job was to remake the world in her image. April, she knocked on my door. No call, no warning. Handed me a certified letter demanding I remove my bridge in 30 days. Claimed it was an eyesore and flood hazard per HOA environmental study. I read it twice. Ma'am, that bridge is entirely on my property. Your HOA has zero authority here. She smiled like a kindergarten teacher correcting a slow child. Mr. Sullivan, we have documentation showing it's abandoned county infrastructure. We're asking you to comply with safety regulations. Your study is 4 pages from a landscaping company. There's not one engineer's signature on it. The smile tightened. We'll follow up through proper channels. She left. I threw the letter away. Figured she'd give up. 1 week later, 6:04 a.m., I woke to a diesel engine roaring on my land. Ran outside in boxer shorts and boots, no time for a shirt, and saw a bulldozer ripping through my bridge. Stone cracking, timbers splashing into the creek, dust and smoke everywhere. I screamed at the operator. He waved me off. Lady said it's county demo. Got a work order. That's my bridge. He didn't stop. And then I saw them. 3 SUVs parked on my access road. Darlene and 2 HOA board members standing there filming on their phones. One of them laughing. I called 911, hands shaking. The sheriff arrived 40 minutes later. Bridge was rubble. The deputy took a report, said it was a civil matter. I'd have to sue. Darlene handed him a folder, calm as Sunday morning. Officer, we removed a hazard. We actually saved the county a lawsuit. I stood there in my underwear, covered in dust, and realized she didn't see me as a person, just an obstacle to bulldoze through. I walked back to my porch and sat. The smell of crushed limestone hung in the air. The creek ran muddy with debris. And I decided, if Darlene wants to play with property rights, I'll show her what a civil engineer knows about roads. Because I just remembered something very interesting about Old Mill Road. I hired a lawyer the next morning. Mitch Kowalski, local guy, does land disputes. We filed an emergency injunction to prevent further damage and a lawsuit for $78,000 in damages, $35,000 for reconstruction, $25,000 for historical value, $18,000 for emotional distress. The county building inspector confirmed what mattered: the bridge was 100% on my property, fully legal, and Darlene's crew had zero permits for anything. Then Darlene's lawyers got clever. They filed a counterclaim arguing my bridge had been in public use for 80 years, so it should have become county property through adverse possession. When Mitch read their filing, he actually laughed. Garrett, they clearly didn't do their homework. Adverse possession only works if the real owner abandoned the property or stopped maintaining it. You've got 30 years of receipts for bridge repairs. He was right. I'd kept everything. Every plank replacement, every bag of gravel, every can of wood sealant. We submitted decades of maintenance records, photos of my private property signs, and tax documents showing the bridge was always listed as part of my assessed property value. The judge dismissed their counterclaim in 3 weeks flat. But Darlene wasn't backing down. Her HOA hired a Pittsburgh law firm and filed a motion claiming my lawsuit was frivolous. They demanded I pay $50,000 in their legal fees. Then came the settlement offer. I dropped my lawsuit, they dropped theirs, and they'll generously donate $5,000 to the local Veterans Fund in my grandfather's name. Mitch brought it to me at the diner. It's a PR play. Makes them look reasonable in front of a judge. I stared at the number. Mitch, my grandfather spent 8 months building that bridge with his hands. They tore it down in 40 minutes while filming it on their phones. And now they want to slap his name on a charity check and call it even? I pushed the paper back. Tell them no. That's when Darlene went nuclear. 2 days later, someone forwarded me screenshots from Meadowbrook's private Facebook group. Darlene's post read, "Local landowner blocking community safety improvements. Refuses to cooperate with flood mitigation efforts that could protect your families." Some people care more about old junk than their neighbor's well-being. Another post mentioned me running outside in my underwear and hinted I might be going through something after my wife's death. The comments piled on. Sounds unstable. Why is the county allowing this? Our property values are dropping because of one guy. Watching strangers call me unstable and selfish, people who'd never met me, never heard my side, that stung more than I expected. But I wasn't interested in Facebook wars. I was interested in winning. I spent the next 2 days at the county clerk's office pulling every file I could find. Property records, easement agreements, utility right-of-ways, old survey maps from the 1940s. I'm a civil engineer. I've spent 3 decades reading blueprints and legal descriptions that would put most people to sleep. But that day, I was hunting. And I found something. Something big. I pulled every document tied to Meadowbrook Estates, building permits, utility hookups, sewage approvals, environmental studies, zoning variances. Created a spreadsheet, color-coded and cross-referenced like I was preparing for trial. That's when I found the crack in Darlene's armor. Meadowbrook's sewage system, a private treatment plant serving all 85 homes, had received conditional approval from the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection back in 2023. That word conditional is important. It meant temporary approval pending final upgrades and inspection within 18 months. I checked the deadline, 14 months ago. They'd missed it. Then I found 2 extension requests, both approved by the DEP regional office, both with recommendation letters attached. And guess who signed those letters? Commissioner Todd Giesham. Darlene's boyfriend. They'd bought a vacation condo together in Florida last year. Public record. Both names on the deed. I leaned back in my chair. People with friends in high places always make the same mistake, they think they're untouchable. And when you think you're untouchable, you get sloppy. But I didn't tell Mitch. Didn't tell anyone. Because in poker, you don't show your cards until the pot's worth winning. Then I found the second piece. The original plat map for Old Mill Road, dating back to 1952. And there it was, clear as day, Old Mill Road had never been formally deeded to the county. It was private property. My property. The road Meadowbrook used as their secondary emergency access route, the road that kept their fire department response time under regulation. I owned it. Mitch called me Friday afternoon. Darlene's lawyers are pushing for a hearing next month. They want the judge to dismiss your case entirely and award them legal fees. I was standing at my window looking toward Meadowbrook in the distance. Let them push. Garrett, you sound way too calm for someone about to get hit with a $50,000 judgment. Mitch, I need you to trust me on this. Just keep filing motions. Keep them busy. I'm working on something. Working on what? I smiled. Insurance. The code enforcement citations started coming every 3 days. My mailbox was 6 inches too far from the road. My gravel driveway had excessive dust concerns. My firewood stack was visible from public right-of-way and constitutes visual blight. Each citation carried $150 per day fines if not remedied within 10 days. By the 5th citation, I stopped fixing them and called Mitch instead. This is harassment, he said flatly. Document everything. Then I got an unexpected visitor. Sunday afternoon, a man in his early 50s knocked on my door, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Mr. Sullivan, my name's Ken Ashford. I live in Meadowbrook. I need to talk to you about Darlene Pritchett. I invited him in, made coffee, and waited. I'm the HOA treasurer, he said quietly. And I've been documenting financial irregularities for 6 months. He pulled a folder from his bag and spread documents across the table. Bank statements, invoices, meeting minutes with dates that didn't match. Darlene's been paying herself consulting fees, $4,000 a month. It's not in the bylaws. Nobody voted on it. And this, he tapped an invoice dated the day after my bridge was demolished. She used HOA funds to pay for your bridge demolition. $28,000. Listed it as emergency infrastructure repair. No board vote. She falsified the meeting minutes afterward to make it look legitimate. I stared at the numbers. $28,000 of other people's money spent to destroy my family's bridge because she wanted it gone. Kent, why are you showing me this? He met my eyes. Because what she did to you was wrong. And because she fined my wife $500 for planting the wrong color roses. I'm tired of living under a tyrant. You understand the risk. If Darlene finds out you leaked financial records to me, she'll make your life hell. He smiled grimly. She already does. At least this way I'm fighting back. I made copies of everything. After he left, I sat with the documents and started piecing together the pattern: the expired septic permit, Todd Gisham's signed recommendation letters, the falsified HOA minutes, the embezzlement. It wasn't just about my bridge anymore. Darlene and her boyfriend had built a little empire of corruption. I picked up my phone and called Andrea Walsh, a local investigative journalist. Andrea, it's Garrett Sullivan. I've got a story for you. She sounded cautious. I read about the bridge dispute. It's bigger. Much bigger. How about county commissioners taking money from developers? HOA presidents embezzling and committing fraud? Environmental permits being covered up? Long pause. Mr. Sullivan, if you're serious, I need documentation. I have 400 pages of it. We met the next day at a diner halfway to Pittsburgh. For 2 hours, I walked her through everything. The bridge demolition, the code enforcement harassment, Gisham's conflict of interest, the expired septic permit, Kent's financial records showing embezzlement and fraud. She took notes, asked sharp questions, requested copies of key documents. When I finished, she sat back and exhaled slowly. This is a legitimate scandal, she said. Give me a week. She published 5 days later. The headline ran online first: County Commissioner linked to developer in land dispute, ethics questions raised. The article laid out Gisham's relationship with Darlene, the expedited permits, the campaign contribution from Meadowbrook's HOA PAC with Darlene listed as treasurer. It didn't mention the embezzlement yet. Andrea was holding that for a follow-up once she verified Kent's documents independently. But the damage was immediate. The article got picked up by a Pittsburgh TV station. By that evening, news vans were parked outside the county courthouse. Geesham released a statement denying wrongdoing, but the county ethics board announced an investigation within 48 hours. My phone started ringing. Other reporters wanting interviews, township supervisors suddenly interested in my code enforcement complaints, even a few Meadowbrook residents reaching out to apologize. I didn't answer most of the calls. Just sat on my porch watching the sun set over the creek and smiled. Because for the first time since that bulldozer showed up, Darlene wasn't controlling the story anymore. And the best part? She had no idea how much more ammunition I still had. Wednesday morning, while Andrea's embezzlement article was setting the internet on fire, Mitch filed 2 documents with the county. First, formal notice that I was withdrawing public access to Old Mill Road, effective in 30 days. Second, notification that the utility easement Meadowbrook had been using for sewage and power lines across my property had expired due to a clerical error in the original agreement and I was not renewing it. Both documents were public record. Both were completely legal. And both landed like grenades in the middle of Darlene's already burning world. My phone rang within an hour. County Engineer's Office, sounding panicked. Mr. Sullivan, we're reviewing your filing about Old Mill Road. Our records show this as a public road. I explained calmly that their records were wrong. The road had never been formally deeded to the county, and I had the 1952 survey documents to prove it. Long silence on the other end, then the sound of papers shuffling frantically. Sir, if you close that road, Meadowbrook Estates loses its secondary emergency access route. Fire department response time would triple during rush hour. That's not my problem. I'm simply exercising my legal rights as a private property owner. Then the calls started flooding in. Fire chief, township supervisors, county planning director, everyone suddenly very concerned about public safety and emergency access and community welfare. I gave them all the same answer: the road is private, always has been, and I'm within my rights to restrict access. If Meadowbrook wants continued use, they're welcome to negotiate an easement agreement at fair market rates. One supervisor actually sputtered, "But Mr. Sullivan, you can't just..." I cut him off politely. Actually, sir, I can. Check the deed records. By noon, the story had leaked to reporters. Andrea called again, barely containing her excitement. Garrett, is it true you own the only alternate route into Meadowbrook? I confirmed it. She laughed. This is incredible. They destroyed your bridge and you own their backup road. That's almost poetic. It gets better. Their sewage and power easement also expired, meaning they've been running utilities across my land illegally for months. Are you really going to cut off their access? I leaned back in my chair. A rebuilt bridge would be a good start. The panic inside Meadowbrook was immediate and total. Emergency HOA meeting called for Thursday night. Kent texted me updates in real time, residents shouting, some demanding Darlene resign, others talking about lawsuits, a few already calling real estate agents to list their homes before property values tanked. The meeting recording leaked to me by Friday morning. I sat in my truck listening to it. Darlene's voice came through shaky and defensive, trying to calm 85 panicking homeowners. This is a legal technicality. Our lawyers are handling it. There's no real threat. But a resident cut her off, voice shaking with fury. You told us everything was handled. Now we find out our president embezzled HOA funds and we might lose sewage service. Another voice, older and frightened, my mother is 78. What happens if there's a medical emergency and ambulances can't get through because you pissed off the wrong neighbor? Darlene had no good answers. Just stammering excuses and empty promises. Monday morning, my kitchen became a war room. Mitch, my lawyer friend Lyle, Rosalie from the county planning office, retired Judge Harlan Meeks, and Brianna Holt, my former intern turned environmental engineer, all gathered with coffee and documents. All right, Mitch said. Let's talk endgame. Garrett's got leverage. The road, the expired easement, public sympathy, Darlene under investigation for embezzlement. Question is, what do you actually want? I've been thinking about this for days.
I want my bridge rebuilt. Historically accurate, proper materials, done right.
I want a written apology from the HOA published in the local paper.
I want fair compensation for the easement going forward, market rate.
And I want Darlene Pritchett out of the HOA presidency.
Judge Meeks looked at me over his glasses. Son, that's all reasonable, but here's what you need to understand: if you push too hard, you become the villain.
You need to give them a way to save face.
Barely an inch, but something.
Brianna jumped in. The DEP complaint I helped you file is already in the system. They'll inspect Meadowbrook's sewage treatment plant within 60 days.
When it fails inspection, the state mandates upgrades or shuts them down.
That's not you being vindictive. That's bureaucracy doing what it does. Mitch pulled out a draft settlement proposal. Here's the play. We request a public mediation hearing at the township supervisors meeting. It's recorded. It's open to the public.
And Darlene can't hide behind her lawyers in some private conference room. You present your terms in front of residents, media, everyone. If she accepts, great. If she refuses, you look reasonable and she looks like the problem.
For the easement renewal, Brianna suggested $500 per month for 20 years. That's fair market rate for commercial utility access in rural Pennsylvania.
For the bridge reconstruction, you get bids from 3 licensed contractors and the HOA pays the median bid. No negotiation, no substitutions.
And the apology? Mitch asked. It needs to name me personally. Name my grandfather. Acknowledge that the demolition was unauthorized and wrong.
And it runs in the Township Gazette for 2 consecutive weeks, plus gets posted at the Meadowbrook main entrance where everyone can see it.
We spent another hour on contingencies.
By the time everyone left around noon, I had a plan that felt bulletproof and a binder so thick you could use it as a doorstop.
But Darlene wasn't finished.
Monday night, 2:30 a.m., I woke to chainsaws ripping through the darkness.
Not distant, close. On my land. I grabbed my phone, pulled on boots over sweatpants, and ran outside. 2 men I'd never seen were cutting down oaks along Old Mill Road's boundary, dropping 60-year-old trees across the road. I started filming as I ran toward them, shouting over the noise. This is private property. What the hell are you doing? The guy running the chainsaw looked up, saw me, yelled something to his partner. They dropped tools and sprinted for a white rental pickup. I got close enough to film faces. Got the truck in frame as they peeled out. Called 911 immediately. Deputy Collins arrived 40 minutes later, same guy who'd handled my bridge demolition. He walked the scene, took photos, watched my video 3 times. Garrett, this is criminal mischief minimum, possibly conspiracy. You pressing charges? He zoomed in on a frame showing the truck's rental company logo. I'll run it down. Collins called the next morning. Ran the rental. Paid for with a credit card belonging to Marcus Pritchett. Who's that? Darlene Pritchett's son. 29, works in her real estate office. There it was. Collins advised, save it. If you press charges now, it becomes a criminal case. Ties up your civil suit for months. But as leverage in negotiations? It's dynamite. I called Mitch immediately. He listened, then started chuckling. Garrett, don't use this yet. Save it for mediation. When Darlene's sitting across from you in front of the township, media, everyone, you calmly present this video. You don't even accuse her. Just explain that her son rented the truck used to commit a crime on your property. Let people draw their own conclusions. Friday, the township scheduled the public mediation hearing. I attended the supervisors' meeting that week, sat in back, said nothing. During public comment, 3 Meadowbrook residents complained about me holding the community hostage, endangering public safety. One even suggested eminent domain to seize my road. The supervisors asked if I wanted to respond. I stood, kept my voice level. I'm not holding anyone hostage. I'm exercising property rights. If Meadowbrook wants access, they can negotiate through my attorney. But I'm not giving away what I own for free, especially not to people who destroyed my family's bridge. I sat down. One supervisor nodded. Mr. Sullivan, we're scheduling a public mediation hearing 2 weeks from today. Walking to my truck afterward, I spotted Darlene's Tesla 3 spaces over. She sat in the driver's seat staring at me through the windshield. We locked eyes. She didn't look angry anymore. She looked terrified. The week before mediation, Kent knocked on my door again. Looking like he'd aged 5 years overnight. Garrett, we need to talk. Now. He pulled out a laptop and a stack of documents. I got removed as HOA treasurer Friday. Darlene called an emergency board vote, said I was creating unnecessary conflict. 3 of her cronies voted me out. He opened the laptop. But before they locked me out of the accounts, I downloaded everything. 2 years of bank statements, every transaction, every invoice. He turned the screen toward me. Highlighted line items told a story that made my stomach turn. Darlene had been paying herself consulting fees, $4,000 a month for 18 months. $72,000 total, never approved by residents, never even mentioned in meeting minutes. Then there were vendor payments to her nephew's landscaping company, her brother-in-law's HVAC business, all inflated beyond reason. Conservative estimate, Kent said quietly, she's funneled about $200,000 out of HOA reserves into family pockets. Kent, why bring this to me? Why not the police? He closed the laptop. I tried. Filed a DA complaint Friday. They said it's a civil matter. Hire a lawyer and sue. They won't prosecute unless there's clear fraud. And Darlene's been smart, everything's documented as business expenses, just massively inflated and paid to relatives. It's corruption the legal system won't touch. He met my eyes. So I'm bringing it to you. You're the only person fighting her and actually winning. I called Andrea Walsh. Within 2 hours, she was verifying Kent's evidence against public records. The article dropped Wednesday morning, 3 days before mediation. Meadowbrook HOA president accused of self-dealing. Documents show suspicious payments to family. By noon, Meadowbrook's Facebook group was melting down. Residents demanding Darlene resign, threatening lawsuits, starting recall petitions. The DA's office suddenly decided to review the matter. Thursday night, Kent texted, emergency HOA meeting. Board voting on Darlene's removal. 70 residents packed the room. Darlene tried defending herself, claimed payments were standard practice and approved by previous boards. Nobody bought it. The board voted 4-1 to remove her as president effective immediately. Then residents voted to suspend her membership pending a full audit and potential legal action. Kent's final text, she walked out. People shouting the whole way to her car. It's over. Friday night, 7 p.m. The township municipal building was packed beyond capacity. Fire marshal limit was 150. At least 200 people crammed inside. 3 TV crews, live stream running with over 5,000 watching. I sat at one table with Mitch. Across from us, Darlene and a lawyer who looked fresh out of law school, probably the only one willing to take her case. Supervisor Chen spoke first. This mediation addresses the dispute between Mr. Garrett Sullivan and Meadowbrook Estates HOA. Mr. Sullivan requested this hearing. Please proceed. I stood. Didn't need notes. I'd lived this story for 2 months. I clicked Mitch's laptop. Photos appeared on the screen. My bridge before demolition, 80 years old and solid. Then April 16, 6:04 a.m., Meadowbrook HOA President Darlene Pritchett ordered this bridge demolished. Built by my grandfather in 1943, on my property, fully legal, destroyed without permission, without permits, without authority. Next photo, the bulldozer mid-demolition. Darlene and board members visible in background with phones. Here they are watching and filming. One is laughing. The room went silent except for camera shutters. I clicked through Facebook screenshots. After destroying my bridge, Miss Pritchett called me unstable on social media. Claimed I was blocking safety improvements. Next, code enforcement citations. Then came harassment. Weekly violations for things that existed on my property for decades. Then I played the chainsaw video. Men cutting trees at 2:30 a.m. fleeing when confronted. Sabotage attempt. Sheriff traced the rental truck to Marcus Pritchett's credit card. Her son. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Darlene went pale. I haven't pressed charges because I'm not interested in revenge. I want justice. I turned off the projector and faced the room directly. During this fight, I discovered something. I own Old Mill Road, the private road that's Meadowbrook's emergency access. I have the 1952 deed. Their utility easement for sewage and power expired 14 months ago due to their clerical error. They've been operating illegally. Several Meadowbrook residents looked sick. I could close that road tomorrow. Terminate utilities. Legally, I'd be within my rights. I paused. But I won't because that punishes innocent people, and they're not who I'm angry at. I pulled out papers. Here's what makes this right. Meadowbrook pays $78,000 for bridge damages. They fund reconstruction, historically accurate, about $120,000 total. Written apology published in the Gazette for 2 weeks. New easement, $500 monthly for 20 years, plus free emergency vehicle access because I'm not cruel. And all harassment stops. No more weaponized code enforcement. No more sabotage. No more attacks. I looked at Darlene. You thought you could bulldoze a quiet engineer because I wouldn't fight back. You were half right. I didn't fight back. I fought smart. Read the deeds. Pulled the permits. Documented everything. My voice dropped. My grandfather spent 8 months building that bridge with his hands. You destroyed it in 40 minutes while laughing. So here's what happens, Meadowbrook accepts these terms, or I close Old Mill Road Monday and terminate utilities in 30 days. The room erupted. Reporters shouting, residents yelling questions. Shen gabbled for order. After 15 minutes, Meadowbrook's interim board president, Patterson, stood. Mr. Sullivan, the interim board has reviewed your terms. We accept all of them. We'll have formal documents prepared by Monday. He looked at Darlene with disgust. And on behalf of the community, I apologize. What happened to your bridge was wrong. What happened after was worse. We'll make it right. Chen nodded. Miss Pritchett, do you have anything to add? She stood slowly, face blank. I acted in what I believed were the community's best interests. That was it. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just deflection. Chen's expression hardened. The terms are accepted. This mediation is concluded. The settlement documents were signed by Wednesday. $78,000 in damages hit my account by Friday. The written apology ran in the Township Gazette the following week, half a page, formal and stiff, signed by Meadowbrook's interim board. Bridge reconstruction started in early June. I hired a local stonemason named Vernon who'd restored 3 covered bridges in the county. We used stones pulled from the creek, same as Pops had done, plus new timber milled from oaks on my property. The design was an exact replica of the 1943 bridge, but engineered to modern safety standards. Cost came in at $118,000 under budget. On a Saturday in July, I invited the township to a volunteer stone setting day. I expected maybe 20 people. 67 showed up. Families with kids, retirees, a handful of Meadowbrook residents who wanted to be part of fixing what their HOA had broken. We worked from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Someone organized a potluck lunch on my lawn. Kids painted decorative stones for the approach path. One little girl, maybe 7, asked why the bridge mattered so much. I told her my grandfather built it so people could help each other, and that's what bridges are for. She nodded like that made perfect sense and went back to painting flowers on her rock. The dedication ceremony happened in September. Small plaque installed on a limestone post, Sullivan Bridge. Built 1943 by William Pops Sullivan. Rebuilt 2025 by the community. My daughter flew in from Oregon with my 2 grandkids, ages 5 and 3. Judge Meeks gave a short speech about legacy and accountability. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it brief. Pops always said a bridge connects people. This one almost divided us, but in the end, it brought us together. That's what he would have wanted. My granddaughter ran across the bridge laughing. And that sound, her joy mixed with the creek rushing below and the smell of fresh oak planks, that was the moment I knew we'd done it right. I established the Pops Sullivan Trade Scholarship annual $5,000 award for local high school graduates pursuing civil engineering, construction trades, or skilled labor. Funded it with $100,000 from the settlement and my savings, set up as a perpetual trust. First recipient was Kent's daughter, 17, wants to be a surveyor. At the award ceremony, she told me her dad talks about integrity now, about standing up when things are wrong. Said watching him help me gave her courage to speak up about things she sees. That hit me harder than I expected. Meadowbrook reformed too. New board elected by residents, implemented transparency rules, monthly financials published online, all votes recorded, independent audits annually. Darlene moved away 3 months after mediation. House sold at a loss. Last I heard, she was in Arizona. I don't think about her much anymore. 6 months after the bridge dedication, on a cold March morning, I'm sitting on my porch with coffee, watching sunrise paint the creek orange and gold. My phone buzzes. Text from Patterson, Meadowbrook's president, Mr. Sullivan, spring potluck is Saturday. You're invited as guest of honor. No pressure. Just wanted you to know you're welcome. I smile and type back, I'll bring potato salad. Later that day, I walk down to the bridge, run my hand over the stones, smooth and solid, moss already starting to grow in the mortar gaps like it's been there forever. A pickup truck crosses. Driver waves. I wave back. This is what Pops meant about building things that last. Not just the stone and timber. The connections. The trust. The knowledge that when someone tears something down, a community can choose to build it back better. Now, here's my question for you. Have you ever dealt with an out-of-control HOA, a corrupt board, or a neighbor who thought they were untouchable? Drop your story in the comments. I want to hear how you fought back. If you loved watching justice happen, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell because we've got more stories of underdogs beating the system. Share this with someone who needs to see that you can win when you're on the right side of the law and the deed. Let's make sure every bully out there knows, you can't win when you're wrong and someone's paying attention.